Hello. Yes, how are you? Happy Tuesday. Thank you, BeLive TV, and thank you, Time TV, for hosting us here. Hello, Rose. Hello, Alice. How are you? It's so great to see you here. You can tell we're excited to see each other. Welcome to the Healing Through Love show. We're here today to increase awareness around within the community about providing family and domestic violence survivors with a soft place to land and to offer advice on services available to those survivors and their families.
And we have businesses come together to pay it forward with their time and resources.
And each week on this show, the Healing Through Love show, we interview a couple of beautiful supporters about who are supporting our Pamper Days and who support Healing Through Love. And we learn more about their personal journeys and their businesses and why they're supporting us. So I'm taking over today, aren't I? I was up there. It's like, it's my turn.
I'm going to go chat in the chat, guys. And Rose, we'll see you soon.
Thank you, ladies. And I'll keep talking because it's my turn to do that. Hello, everyone. I'm Ali Sugars. And so today, the lovely guest that I am going to be speaking with is Cathy Oddie. So when she comes on screen, I love to welcome Cathy to our show today. Now, Cathy is the victim representative on the Victorian Department of Justice and Community Safety's Victim of Crime Consultative Committee. Now, my goodness, that is a mouthful right there. But how are you, Cathy? Welcome.
Hi, thanks very much for having me. So, yes, it is a bit of a mouthful, but it's an appointment that I'm feeling so honoured and so grateful to have the opportunity over the next 3 years to be part of keeping the victim survivors' voice centred in any policy and legislative change that happens in Victoria in regards to victim supports.
Incredible. It is an absolute privilege to be speaking with you today, someone in that position. So, tell us a little bit more, if you can, about what that position involves.
So the Victims of Crime Consultative Committee is made up of the key government departments and agencies which are around justice and victim support. So you're looking at the Minister for Victim Support, which is Natalie Hutchins. You've got Victoria Police, Corrections, Parole Board. You've got the court system, and also the victim support services, plus the role which I'm on there is as one of the 6 victim representatives. So whilst I'm there with a lived experience of family violence and sexual assault, the other 5 representatives who have lived experience, they're also of a diversity of what they've experienced. For example, it may be like that they've lost loved ones in a car accident or had gone through a home invasion or a variety of different stuff. So, as I said, it's a privilege and an honour to be part of the conversation.
Beautiful. Yeah, no, it's really good. And I note too that you use the word victim survivor. Would you mind expanding on that a little bit? Because I know when we spoke previous to this, we said that in Healing Through Love, we use the word survivor a lot. So would you mind just expanding on why you use the term victim survivor?
Okay, so here in Victoria, since the Royal Commission into Family Violence, the term victim survivor has been the terminology which has become accepted across the family violence specialist services, government and health sector. I guess so that for me has become why that's second nature to use that term. But I guess on a more literal sense, why I actually find that term a useful one to use is it acknowledges that you have actually been the victim of a crime that has been committed against you, which in my case was family violence and the rape. However, it's not keeping you in that victim space, because the survivor part of it is saying that you've actually come through the other side of it, and it's acknowledging the strength. So it's it's seeing the part that, yes, a wrong has been committed against you. However, you are strong, you are resilient. There is life after those terrible crimes that have been committed.
So very true, and I appreciate, you know, the fact that it, you know, that's a term that you've come to be used to using. So that's brilliant. So Cathy, tell us a little bit about how you came to be in this role. So maybe a bit about your own story.
Certainly. So in my situation, the first intimate partner relationship where I experienced abuse was when I turned 22. And that lasted 3.5 years, followed by 10 years of stalking. And then later, I was in a subsequent abusive relationship, which lasted 6.5 years and ended in 2016. So between those two abusive relationships, I went through every type of family violence that you can imagine. So physical, verbal, emotional, sexual, and in the second relationship also financial. So I've experienced being burnt, having bones broken, being held hostage at gunpoint, being threatened repeatedly that if I left, that person would kill me and bury me in the backyard, and they'd be holding a knife to my throat whilst they're making those threats. And then jump forward to when my most recent perpetrator left. When he walked out, I was actually pregnant, and he left me $50,000 in debt. And the situation for me was so distressing, to all the factors that were going on, to find out that he'd been maintaining an affair for quite a while, which I'd had no knowledge of. All this was a complete shock to the system. And that child, which was a child that I'd been waiting years to try to have, I unfortunately had a miscarriage because of how extremely distressed I was, and still actually paying off the large debt that he left me in. So it's behind me, but it's still something that impacts me every single day. And that's why I've had to really invest so much time into finding ways to actually be not stuck in the point of crisis where I can't actually function on a daily basis. And that's really what I'd like to discuss more with the people who are watching today.
Yeah, I'm really, really keen to hear what you've got to say to us today, because I know you are going to be sharing with us on healing, recovery and post-traumatic growth, so life beyond the crisis. And I think this is going to be, I know it's really important, you know, having lived through it myself, you know, we do, I think survivors need to know that there is life beyond the crisis. So I'm going to stay on screen with you, but I'm just going to, you know, hand it over to you now for you to share some points that you've got with us, if that's okay.
Absolutely. So what I've found is that you have to be kind to yourself, and you need to be patient with yourself, because you're not having a race against anyone to get to a certain point. Healing and recovery is not linear. It's a messy thing, and there'll be points where you feel like you've progressed to some point that you've thought, this is where I'm going to be great again. And then all of a sudden something happens, as life tends to do, and it sets you right back. And I want you to know that that's okay, because this is completely normal, that we're going to actually face challenges post leaving the situation of abuse. But what I also want you to know, if you've experienced family violence, is that the skills that you've learnt to survive being in a virtual war zone every day is going to equip you to deal with the future moments of adversity that may occur. Because anyone who has gone through this stuff or supported someone that they love who has been experiencing abuse, is that absolutely, unequivocally, every person, people might want to reflect that they are weak, but they are not. They are some of the most strongest, resilient people I've ever encountered in my life. You have to be to get through this. So I want you to remind yourself of that when those difficult days come up. And I'm not going to lie to you, I've had many black days in my healing and recovery journey. But what keeps me going is knowing that I've survived every shit day that's come my way so far. And so will you. And so how can you do that? Well, first of all, I'd say if you haven't already done so, is to engage with a trauma specialist psychologist. Make the most of going to your GP and getting the mental health plan 10 sessions. In Victoria right now, you can actually have up to 20 sessions because of COVID-19. Use those. However, talking therapy is maybe not for everyone. So I like to do a combination of things. So aside from using my 10 per year of my mental health sessions, which I do whether it's a good month or a bad month, because I think it's really good to check in. Aside from that, I've found what's also been really useful is to do things such as trauma-sensitive yoga, because getting reconnected with your body and your breathing in a positive way is something that's, I think, so important for so many people who've experienced these forms of abuse, because you learn to start disconnecting. And when it comes to, for example, breathing, we're in that state of fight or flight, freeze or fawn. So we're in those really basic instinctual responses where we're constantly hypervigilant and we're breathing in a shallow way. And that actually, the impact of that and the tension that that brings to our body has a huge, huge impact. So if we can actually start reconnecting with that breathing from our diaphragm, doing things like the yoga, which allows us to concentrate on the movement, going walking, shutting off from forms of technology. And just for example, for me, I love walking with my beautiful border collie Xena the fluffy warrior, I call her. Yeah, she's definitely a little furball of fun, but I find the moments when I'm with her is to be present in that moment, because everyone is going to have their go-to instinctive response of what's going to kick in when you're under duress. For me, I find what happens is I freeze. And so when I'm in that frozen state, is that I'll either be ruminating about the past or I'll be catastrophizing about the future. And it actually then paralyzes me from actually doing what I want to do in this moment. And then I get really frustrated at myself. And it's like, how do I break out of that, what feels like that broken record loop? So some of the strategies that I've learned in recent years that have been really helpful, for example, EFT tapping. Now, EFT, what it stands for is Emotional Freedom Technique, and it's an alternative treatment for physical pain and emotional distress. It is also referred to as tapping or psychological acupressure, and people who use this technique believe tapping the body can create a balance in your energy system and treat pain. And I definitely say that that's been true for me. I've found through doing the different tapping movements, like I might be in a stressful meeting around work, and I can be doing some of the tapping techniques with my hands under the table, and no one would be any the wiser as to what I'm doing. And that in a moment where my anxiety levels have suddenly really spiked, I can do that, and I can actually bring myself right down where I'm not having my heart racing, where I'm not feeling like the brain fog is starting to happen and where you're starting to dissociate. So that is such a really grounding technique, and that's something you can do for yourself in any place where you can do it when you're at the traffic lights and you've got some frustrating drivers around you. Also, but this is more a guided technique where you'd need to have a practitioner, and it's something that's covered through Medicare, is EMDR. So EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And that is a psychotherapy treatment that was originally designed to alleviate distress associated with traumatic memories. It's been really well documented in its effectiveness for returned service people who've been in combat, and it's now being increasingly used for people who've survived child abuse and family violence. Yet again, that's something that I've found really beneficial. For others, maybe not so, but what I suggest is finding the right thing for you and not just having one thing in your toolkit, but have a range of things that you can draw on. Yeah. Would you agree, Ali?
Look, honestly, 100%. You were talking about the EFT.
Yes.
I went through a trauma 3 years ago. It was a workplace sexual harassment and bullying experience, and I have only actually recently done some EFT to help me overcome that situation. You also spoke about, you're going for a walk with your fur baby. Now, I've got a cat, so I can't take her for a walk, but I have to say that when I went through, and again, I'll talk about the same experience, when I went through that experience, she has been like therapy for me. And she still is, because, as you would know, as you would understand, this is something that we deal with every day. And so, when she comes, she'll probably come in when we're doing this, actually. She'll come in and just squawk at me, and just to check that, are you okay? So yes, and I agree when you say that we all have to make our own toolkit, 100%. And I don't know whether you're going to mention this or not, but something that helped me was meditation. So,
well, for me, meditation is great, except I get too distracted in a sense. That's why I find yoga for me is personally the one I go to, because you're in a meditative state, but you're also having the movement which keeps you concentrated. I find that my mind wanders when I'm just sitting there. But then it also depends. Like, I grew up in the country and I've just recently moved back, and so I'm close to my family's farm, and there's this particular rock out at my dad's farm that is up on a hill, and it looks back across the land, and it's particularly beautiful when the sun's setting, and it's a place that just has this amazing energy about it that when I'm sitting there, I just feel so connected to the land. I feel so grounded and really at peace, and that's a place for me, because I love creative writing, that I've actually, so many poems that I've written have been created from that spot. And so it's finding, I guess, for you, what's your rock looking out on the sunset? What's the place that you can go to, even if it's something that you're visualizing in your mind? I've done a lot of traveling around the world, and at a moment of stress, I just actually visualize myself sitting on that rock, and then I immediately feel a sense of calmness just even thinking about that. And we'll all have something which is our rock. Because what I really want to reinforce for those of you who are still in a situation of abuse, or maybe just coming out of that, and that you're just thinking, oh my God, everything's just too overwhelming. I'm trying to engage with different services. It's an absolute maze to navigate. I'm exhausted, and I just need someone to actually guide me through this. I get that. It is a maze. And I've been advocating in this space since 2007 to improve that system. And look, it has improved a lot. But as we know, for those of you who are encountering the systems right now, it still has a long way to go. But what I want you to know is that things will get better for you individually. That where you might be feeling distressed on a daily basis, on a per hour basis, where you just think, I can't go on. The beautiful thing about our brain is that it actually has the power to heal itself through a process called neuroplasticity when it comes to trauma. And when you're using the techniques such as EFT tapping and so forth, and you're combining that with seeing a trauma specialist psychologist, and you're doing things around reconnecting with your body and stuff that also, not even just about that, it's reconnecting with pieces of you that you maybe have set aside. Because in our abusive relationships, we've all had things that we've had to either stop or not even start that we maybe had dreamed that we would do. And this is when I say life beyond the crisis is the invitation for you to actually say, well, I wanted to do that particular course, or I started that course, and that's something that I didn't feel I could do because I was just having to survive on a daily basis. And when you've got an emotional vampire sucking all your energy, it's impossible. So it may be something like that, or it may be that you wanted to take dancing classes, whatever it may be. Do the thing that you wanted to do, or start the new thing, because we don't have to be defined by our past. We are ever evolving, beautiful spirits. And so it's finding what the thing is that gives you a spark in this moment, and also finding your tribe. That's been one of the biggest healing things for me, is finding a beautiful tribe of like-minded women and some men. There's some good allies out there, but in this space, I would say I've been so lucky to have a group of peers in the family violence survivor advocate space who've got that shared lived experience, and that they're there for you to help you on your bad days or to celebrate the good moments, but also to have some mentors. I like to think of a particular group of older women in my life as my friend tours, because they've become more than just a mentoring role, and that the generosity of spirit that they've given in looking at someone like me who hasn't got a qualification, has not completed a degree, and had some faith in the fact that I could actually do certain things, and have created a seat at the table and opened doors. And so now I'm so passionately committed in my work I do in this day and age to actually be part of now opening doors for others. So if you're in that stage of just coming out of a situation of abuse, I'd be encouraging those of you who are further along your journey to be the one to give that helping hand up and share the knowledge that you now have, because it does feel so isolating and so lonely when you feel you have to go through this alone, and the fact is you're not. And there is a tribe of amazing warrior women and some men here in Australia and globally.
That is so true, Cathy. And you have really, I think, just described, the essence of healing through love, because we are all about providing that support and through the Pamper Days and through this show for survivors. So just one quick last question I've got for you is, what would you maybe say to someone? Now, of course, we're coming, some places in Australia are coming out of lockdown, some people are more in lockdown now. So what would you say to someone who is maybe still in one of those relationships and in lockdown at the moment? What advice would you give to these beautiful women?
I would say there are many support services around Australia that are there ready and waiting to assist you. Do not feel like you're alone. It's get yourself to a situation of safety so that you can do the web chat or make the phone call. It may be that it's like your trip to the shops, and if you don't feel you're safe at home, to actually make the contact to the support service. If you're at immediate risk, ring 000. If, on the other hand, you're observing someone like a neighbour or a colleague or a friend that you've got concerns about them, definitely offer your support, because particularly for people in Victoria right now, and in Melbourne even more so, the fact is that the risk levels have just escalated so much. We've seen throughout this. Yeah. So if there's an immediate risk, 000. If you have the opportunity to, in a position of safety, ring somewhere like 1-800-RESPECT. You don't have to know your local service, such as here in Victoria at the Safe Steps Family Violence Response Centre. You don't have to know that level of knowledge. Just call 1-800-RESPECT and they'll connect you where your local supports are.
Fantastic, Cathy. Thank you. And look, honestly, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us, sharing what you do. As you said, we are a little bit further along in our journey. And as the four of us were speaking about before the show, we were saying, what a privilege it is, isn't it, to come on and share with people that, that there is, as you say, life beyond the crisis. And healing is possible. So thank you so much for coming on today. Very, very much appreciate it. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. It's been really lovely to be here. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Thank you, Cathy. So now that's it for our show today. And I don't know if my wonderful colleagues are going to join me on screen or not. But if you would like to be involved in Healing Through Love, you are welcome. If you'd like to come on the show and either share your story, share some, like Cathy has done today, share some recovery techniques, you're welcome to do so. So you can get in contact with us through healingthroughloveadelaide@gmail.com, or you can find us on Facebook at the Healing Through Love page. So thank you so very much for joining us today. It has been, as I said, a privilege to come on with you today. And we will see you next week at the same time, 1 p.m. Adelaide time. Thanks, everybody. It's been a pleasure. And thank you.